Hello, it's Lucy here. We're coming up at 12:30, 20 past 12, and I'm coming on to do my little Wednesday live catch up. I didn't get on yesterday to do my live sewing. I was in workshops all day and in the evening, so I've been super busy and I couldn't quite fit it in for you guys. So I thought I would come on today because I didn't want you to miss out, and I've got a little project in mind that I want to get done. So I thought I would come on and do that with you live sewing. So I'm making unicorns in my studio today for orders. So I'm having a little break. There they are there ready to be stitched up after this. So I'm just going to have a little break and come on live with you guys. So if you come on, say hello, of course. And if you come on and watch me on replay, which lots of you probably will, because I'm not sure who will be around at this time in the day, pop a little hello in the comments as well. Maybe put like replay so I know when you've come on to watch me. So what are we going to make today? Well, the thing that I want to make today, and I've been thinking about for a while because it's been really frustrating me, is something that my son does. So I have a teenage son, well, almost a teenager, and he listens to music on the bus on his way to school, which is fine, and he's very untidy. He doesn't look after his stuff. It's a real bugbear of mine, as probably a lot of parents can maybe relate to, and he just takes his earphones off and shoves them in his bag or somewhere else, and they keep getting broken, the wires keep coming loose, he keeps losing the little rubber bits from his ears and things, and I refuse to buy him any that are any more expensive, so he's got to put up with them. So anyway, I thought I need to make something that might encourage him to put them away properly. So I found a fab little project where it's a little key ring, a little round key ring with a zipper on to keep your headphones in. So I thought I'm going to have a go today at making those and see how it turns out. I haven't made one yet, of course. Live sewing, I always do it impulsively, what I'm going to make normally, and I haven't pre-practiced it, so hopefully it will turn out good and you guys can follow along at home. So I've prepared a few bits ready to go to make this. It's super easy, and if I like it I'm going to make myself a couple as well to keep in my handbag. So this is what you will need. Hello whoever's watching. You're going to need to make yourself a pattern piece, a nice circle, not too big because you only want it small to go in your bag, and we're going to make it in a keyring style. So I used for this, I can't remember what it was now. I think it was like a little food pot, one of the kids' food pots, and I drew around. Let me give you an idea, although I haven't got my tape measure to hand. Oh, where's all my stuff? Of the size of it for you, just so you've got an idea of my finished one. Let's have a look how big it is. I normally work in inches, so this is 5 inches across, my little template, which is 12 centimetres roughly. So I've got a little circle there, so that's what I'm using as my template. And then you want to pick some fabrics, and you're going to need a zip. So I've chose a nice brightly coloured orange zip. Now this zip is bigger than my template. You can use any size zip really, as long as it's going to fit your chosen circle template. It doesn't matter that it's longer because we're going to cut off the excess anyway. So just choose a zip you like, see if you've got one in your stash, you know, choose a one you've had sort of hanging around that you haven't got any other plans for. That's the best thing to do. And this is another great project for using up your stash as well. I love these projects. You don't have to go out and buy loads of stuff. You can just have a run through and see what you've got and use those pieces of fabric and zips or whatever else you need. So then I've chosen some fabrics. I want to make a lining for my little case because I'm going to put some interfacing in to give it a bit of padding to protect the earphones. So I've just chose some grey stripe there. I've cut 2 of those, and I've just cut sort of squares to show you really that it fits my template. And then I've chose some grey spot for him, and I've just cut 2 pieces of that. You can cut the circle straight out. I've just got little squares to show you. And then I was going to put some thermal interfacing in just because it's nice and protective, not for the thermal element, but I couldn't find any in my stash. So I did have some of this interfacing here, some of this batting. It's a really nice tight one, probably light to medium weight. So I'm just going to use that inside, and that will give me a bit of protection. So that's why I'm doing a lining. And then the other things I'm using are a little bit of ribbon, but you could use a bit of fabric equally to give a little loop on my finished case holder, so like that for instance, and then I've just found myself a little keyring loop that I'm going to put on there as well, and then he can attach that to his bag or in your handbag or whatever you want to do with it. So those little bits as well. So let's get sewing. Oh, hello, Danielle. Right, let's have a look. So first of all, you need to cut your template out of your fabric. So that's your first thing to do, really. So I'm going to lay these on top of each other. I'm just going to cut them together. Let's get some pins. So has anyone made anything like this before? I love little projects like this that are really usable. So I'm obviously going to try and bring you guys projects on my live sewing that are usable, because, you know, we love making things, but it's no point making it if you're then going to stick it in a drawer and never look at it again. So we want things that are practical, things that are usable, and things that you can use all the time. So I am always looking for inspiration. They have to be little small makes that I can make rather quickly on live video. So if you've got any ideas, pop me a message. I can't guarantee I'm going to make them, but I would love to hear your suggestions. So let me know in the comments. So there we are. I've just cut those. So I haven't done it exact circle, just a slightly bit bigger. I haven't left a seam allowance. And it will be a bit smaller than that because I am applying the zip on there. So you can use a seam allowance if you wanted to. Depends how big your circle is. You don't want it too big because you only want it small to sort of, you know, keep that, the earphones in or whatever it is you want to keep in there. So let's cut out the other set as well. We were discussing as well in our workshops this week about cutting out, and lots of people struggle with the cutting out part of like patterns and sewing, and you know it's not always the most enjoyable part for people. So really sort of thinking of ways that we can make that easier for people and improve the enjoyment of that stage of the sewing. I shared a little tip from one of my ladies that came to a workshop last week about holding the scissors upside down. So that might be an option for people to have a go at. We were talking about using a rotary cutter. That makes the cutting easier on some occasions. Again, not everybody enjoys doing that. So it's finding what works for you, really. And the other thing you can do, it's quite hard to cut around a pattern because quite often the pattern can move or the fabric can move. So, you know, one, really secure it down really well, either with clips or pins before you start to cut it out. Or if you're doing if you're doing dressmaking, maybe pattern weights, or use a tailor's chalk. So when you put your pattern onto your fabric, on the reverse, or on the front, actually it won't matter because you're going to be cutting it out, draw around your pattern with a tailor's chalk. So secure it down with weights, draw around it, and then cut out the drawn line as opposed to the pattern. Could make it easier for you. But if you've got any hot tips that you sort of use in your sewing, share them in the comments below, because that's what it's all about. We want to share what we do, all the tips and sort of tricks that we come across along the way that makes our lives easier when we're doing sewing. So hello, Elaine. So now I'm going to cut my batting as well, my interfacing. So again, just cutting a circle and out of this. So this is another not such nice thing to cut. This can be tricky as well. But remember, with things like batting, as long as you're not making it much smaller than your finished project, it doesn't have to be, you know, cut beautifully to the pattern you're making, because it's going to be inside and it's got a set purpose. It's to give, in this one, protection, so a bit of wadding, or it might be giving it a bit of structure if you're using like an interfacing or something. So there's one. I'm going to do another. Now, one of my circles I am going to be cutting in half because I want to apply my zip to it. And my zip's going to go down the middle of my little headphone case. So we'll do that in a moment. So cut around this one. So I'm also going to need my zipper foot for my machine. There we are. So I've got two of those. Well, I don't like that. It makes my hands go all funny. Sticks to it. Just going to find my zipper foot a moment. So your zipper foot is the little skinny one that you'll have in your kit. All your machines should come with a zipper foot. It's a standard foot. So it looks like that. It's skinny in the middle and it allows you to get closer to the teeth on your zip if you haven't used one before. So you can get right into the zip, whereas if you used a normal foot, it would sort of get stuck out here. Let me show you with my standard one. So if you sewed a zip on with your standard zip, your zip would your foot, sorry, would sit out here. It wouldn't go in past the teeth. So your needle would be sewing right at the edge of your zipper. So that's why we use a zipper foot. So it can slide right into the teeth, and then your stitch line, you can get nice and close to your zip opening. So I'm going to put my zipper foot on because that's what I'm going to do first. So let's have a look. Switch my machine on, might help. I haven't done any sewing yet today. There we go. So what one am I going to have for my outside? Let me think. I think I'm going to do the spot, the stripe at the front actually, and the spots on the reverse. So these stripy ones, I'm going to cut them straight down the middle in half. So I'm just going to line up the stripes a little bit to make the cut the same. I'm going to fold it in half, and then I'm just going to cut it down the middle. And then that's where I'm going to apply my zip to. It's quite nice because I can follow the lines. So I've just cut them in half. So now I've got 4 little half moons here. I've got my outside and my lining, and that's where I'm going to put my zip in the middle. So I'm also going to cut one of my little interfacings through, my battings through. Middle 2. Bit trickier. Like that. And I may need to make that a bit smaller again when I apply my zip. So then I'm going to get my zip and my little half moons. I'm just going to turn you around and make sure you can see this okay. So I'm going to put aside one of those or 2 of those for my lining. So 2 that make a circle. And then keep 2 out here. And my zip, I want to go in the middle of that like so. So to do that, what I'm going to do is grab one of my half semicircles. I'm going to open my zip up a little bit. I'm going to get my zipper with the pull here face down onto that fabric, line it up in the middle. So I'm not going to lay it to the edge like this with a long bit. I'm going to sort of line it up in the middle so that I'm going to cut off both the ends when I finish it off. And then I'm going to clip it on with some fabric clips. These are fab if you use these. But you can use pins equally for anyone that doesn't have these. Okay, so I've attached that. So this is the right side of my fabric, and the right side of my zip in there is facing down onto there, along the top where I want to attach it. And then I'm going to sew down there with my zipper foot on. So I'm just going to turn you around. And I'm literally going to go down here with a straight stitch. Make sure your needle's in the right place to go down in the little notch for the zipper foot. I'm just using my normal white thread here. And on the zippers, normally, if you get a fairly decent one, it's got sort of markings on there, and you can follow those markings down. So it's got sort of stitch lines on the actual zipper piece here to give you a little bit of a guide when you're sewing. So you can use that to help you sew nice and straight along the zipper. I'm going to do a little back stitch and then sew that on. So when you get to the point where your zipper pull is, so here is my zipper pull, I want to move that out the way, because if I sew around that little bit, it's going to push my needle out and I'm going to have a little lump in my stitching. So it's not going to be nice and straight. And then reline it up, hold it nice and taut, carry on. And I'm not going to the end of my zip because my fabric finishes before that, so I'm just finishing off before I get to the end. So keep an eye on where your fabric finishes. Okay, so I've just sewn from there to there. So then when I open that up, you can see that's the first side then of my circle with my zip in the middle. Okay, and my zip should be able to open. There you go, perfect. So I'm going to do exactly the same to the other semicircle now. So let me just spin you back around. So I've got my other side of my circle now. So I'm going to open up so I can see my zip again, my zip pull, have the right side of my semicircle facing me and lay the right side of my zip down onto that edge. Now what I want to do at this point is line up my 2 semicircles so they are matched up. Okay, so that my semicircles still match on top of each other. And I want to then put some fabric clips along the top there to hold my zip in place, and then I'm going to sew it on exactly the same. Okay, so there you can see. So there's my zipper in the middle there. and I've laid that onto my fabric. So I'm going to now sew down that side. Keep my zip pull out the way. Oops, following those lines on your zipper again to help you. Take your clips out as you go. Right down to the end of my fabric. Oh, can't see, I'm turning you around, how rude. Right down to the edge of my fabric as opposed to my zip. There we go. And then that's the second half sewn on. There you go. My zip's in the middle now. So I'm going to cut off all my threads because we don't want those hanging around. We don't want them getting caught in our machine. So get all of those out of the way. So, yes, hopefully this isn't going to encourage him. Hello, Monica! Hopefully this is going to encourage my son to actually look after his headphones. Who knows? Not sure. So now what I'm going to do is what you can do when you put a zip on. This zip is going to stay flat like this. So when you make a little bag, for instance, your zip will be at the top, for instance, like this, and you might have a lining in there. This one is staying flat down, but I want to apply a lining and I want to apply the batting in the middle. So what I want to do is lay my zip back down again with my stitched on line. I'm going to put my batting in the middle there on my zip. And then I'm going to get my lining piece. So let me see, can you see this? Let me put this down here. So there's the back of my zip facing me. This is a bit of my batting. I'm going to lay on top of that. And then this is my lining fabric. I'm going to lay face down on top of that again. So I'm sandwiching it all in together along the top of my zip, securing in place again. So you could do this all in one hit. You could, you know, put your fabric down, your zip on, then your batting, then your lining, and sew it all in one go. But because there's quite a few layers, it's quite small, I've done the first bit first, and then I'm adding the batting and the lining afterwards, just so it's all held in place. And then I'm just going to go down that zipper again, attaching that lining and that batting. So who noticed the error? This is where live sewing comes into its own. The batting goes on top of the lining. Ooh, good job I noticed. I can sense you all laughing now. This is why I make the errors on live video. It's probably my lunchtime. I need some sugar. Right, so forget that. Take that bit of batting out. You get your zip, lay it down. The reverse of your zip is facing me. You get your lining face down onto your zip and you put your batting on top of the lining, and then you sew along. It's a good job you're not sewing along with me, isn't it? So pop that back down. Hopefully that's made some of you smile. Anyway, there you go. Look, that's what I intended to do. Now I'm going to sew that zip back on. So who's seen my post to say the British Sewing Bee is starting on the 12th? Woohoo! How exciting. Hopefully you're all going to watch along and we can enjoy talking about it in the group. Hello, Alice! There we go. So I'm making this little sandwich. So I need to do exactly the same with the other side now to get the other piece of lining on and the other piece of batting. So I'm going to open this back up to find my zipper in the middle. So I've now got one side of my zip has got my outer, my batting and my lining. So I want to do the same to this side now. So exactly the same. What I want to do is I want to find the reverse of my zip again. The reverse of my zip that hasn't got anything sewn to it. That's going to be laid down on my desk. I'm going to get my lining first of all. Let me spin you round and put that on the zip, lining it up with the rest of the fabric. And then I'm going to get my batting and I'm going to put that on top again and clip it in place or pin it or whatever you're doing. Let's have a look. Okay, and then I'm going to sew down that zip again. I'm going to sew on the opposite side to my batting because you can follow the stitch line. You can sew on the top as well, it's up to you, but if you want to make it a bit easier you can follow your stitch line on the reverse. your clips out as you go. Move your zipper pull if you need to. Don't sew around that because it will give you a bump in your sewing. Right, so let's see how we're getting on now. So we've now got, let's have a look. We've now got a zip in the middle. We've got 2 pieces of fabric right side facing us on the outside. Hurrah! They've both got batting in the middle, and then we've got our lining on the reverse. We can undo our zipper, so just check it's all in working order. Woo! There you go. Perfect. So what I'm also going to do is, because I've got a few layers there and I want to hold that all away from my zipper teeth out the way, is I'm going to do a top stitch down this side and a top stitch down this side, holding those 3 layers now together. So what you can do is have it nice and flat. You can pop a clip or a pin in that just to hold it out the way nice and flat, and then just sew down a top stitch, keeping your zipper foot on at this stage down the edges of those zips. So again, just on the fabric, not to the end of the actual zip because the zip is longer. And you could do this with a little fancy stitch if you wanted to you know, jazz it up. I'm just doing the straight stitch here. You could do it with maybe a different colour stitch, thread, you know, whatever you want to do, get creative. That's one side. Let's do the other. Move that pull out the way. So it's quite nice using stripy fabric because you can follow your stripes as well, makes it a bit easier to get a nice straight line. As long as your stripes are nice and straight, that is. There we go. Woo! So I'm just going to trim off that end there now. I'm just going to leave that other end on because if I trim that off, it's got the end of the zip stoppers are not in my actual sewing. So if I chop that off now, the zipper pull is going to come straight off the end, whereas at the bottom, it's still got that there. So just bear that in mind before you trim things off. So I'm just going to keep that other one out the way. Now what I want to do is start piecing it all together. It's super easy and quick, this little project. Love it. And hopefully will encourage some tidying. Let's take those little clips off. So that top stitch you can see is just held that nice and neat now. It'll stay away from that zipper so it won't get caught when he's opening it or anything, on the reverse as well. So now we kind of want to start pasting it all together. So let me just spin you back around to the table. Who else have we got joining us? Hello, Debbie. Oh, there's quite a few of you on this lunchtime. Hope you're all well for Thursday. Almost the weekend, people. Unless you've got to work, that's not quite so good, of course. So now I want to put my backing on. So I've again got 2 pieces of fabric, my inner and my lining, and I've got my batting as well. So first of all, before I put this on, I want to apply my little ring pull piece of ribbon, which you can equally use a piece of fabric. You can just fold it and then sort of do a top stitch down the sides to make a little channel of fabric, or a bias binding, for instance. You can fold the bias binding in half and sew down one side to close it. I've just got this little bit of ribbon because I had it in my little stash. I'm going to fold that piece of ribbon in half. So you want to cut it so it's not too long. So again, just to give you an idea of the size that I cut mine, this is 3.5 inches long, which is 9 centimetres. And then I'm going to fold that in half. So that will give me sort of a loop that size. And that's going to then take my ring pull to make it into a key ring. So I want to apply this to one of the ends of my little case. So I think I'm probably going to put that up the top where my zipper pull is. So I almost want my key ring to go up the top here where it will be zipped up to. I think that probably lies the nicest than having it on the bottom bit, maybe. So that's what I'm going to go for. So what I want to do is I'm going to put a clip holding that zip together at the top there, because I've undone it slightly. And then I want to lay my little fabric piece going downwards into my little case. So like this. Okay, so there's my ring pull underneath, but you can have it either end, it's entirely up to you. You can have it anywhere actually on the thing you want to have it. So I'm going to put that there, laying down, and then I'm going to get a pin and pin that in place. And I'm trying to keep the zip behind it fairly straight and level and joint together. I don't want that overlapping. So I'm just going to pin that with the head of my pin poking outwards so I can remove it when I'm sewing. Just going to sort of pin that in place where I want it. Okay, so I've just put a pin down one side just to kind of put it in the position I want it. I can straighten it up a little bit as I go. I could put one the other side as well actually, and that'll keep my zip closed together. I'm going to do that. It's a little bit fiddly this. There you are. So I've put a pin either side, and that kind of keeps my zip together as well on the reverse. You want to have your zipper open a little bit so you can turn it in the right way when you're finished. Then what you want to do, hello Anne! Then what you want to do is lay that down on your surface facing you so I can see my zip pull, I can see my little tag I've put on. I then want to put my inner, my lining, so I'm going to put that on top of that, like so. I am going to put my outer fabric facing me on top of that. Oh, no. Right, no, I'm going to put my batting on top of that, and then I'm going to put my outer fabric on top of that one. Honestly, good job you guys watch it and you can sort of see what I'm doing. So now I've got a sandwich like that. So I've got my inner fabric, my batting, and my outer fabric, and that's going on top of my already sewn top of my little case facing me. So right side's facing, like so. Okay, then I'm going to clip it all the way around. So make sure those circles line up. Now's the time to give it a little trim if you need to. Mine's not too bad. Sew it all around. Pin it all around, sorry. Like so. Right, so now what I've got is the inside of my zipper there. I've got my fabric lining on the other side. I've got my batting, and then inside there I've got my spotty fabric and the outside of my case facing each other. So right side's facing, but I can also see the right side here as well. Okay, and then I'm just going to sew all the way around that, not leaving any gaps, just all the way around. So I'm going to put my normal foot back on my machine for this. Whoop, spin you around. So I'm going to take my zipper foot off, and I'm going to put my normal foot on to do this. Hopefully I've got enough thread left in my bobbin. And I'm not going to start on my actual zip. I'm just going to sort of start over here somewhere because your zip is quite thick, so you don't really want to start sewing on a piece of fabric that is quite bulky because it's hard to get it through the machine initially. So I'm going to start here. I'm going to use a straight stitch. Yeah, I'm going to keep fairly close to the edge because I don't want to make it too small. So I'm going to be following, I don't know if you can see this here, I'm going to follow the edge of my fabric around sort of the inside right hand leg of my foot here. So just this little bit here, I've got a clear bit on my foot which is quite nice so I can see through. So as opposed to normally I tell people to follow the edge of your fabric on the edge of your foot, I'm going to follow just inside of that. But you know, it's personal choice, you can follow whatever is easiest for you. I'm doing a little back stitch again. So as you sew round, there's quite a lot of layers of fabric here. So make sure you're holding all that fabric down as you sew to stop it from moving and ruffling up, because it will have a temptation to do that. And take your time. If it feels like it's moving or going wrong, just stop and readjust it. So I'm coming around to my zip now. So I'm literally wanting to sew straight across my zip here. Now I have got my pins in here, so I'm going to take these out because I do not like sewing over my pins. Don't want to break my needle or my pins or anything worse. So I've taken them out really carefully, not to move anything else. I've held down my ribbon while I've pulled them out, so it's still in place. Make sure my zip is together, and then I'm just going to go straight over that. So I'm not hitting the zip stopper, the little plastic bit at the end of the zip, because that's way off. If you've got that near where you're sewing, you mustn't sew over that bit because that's going to break your needle, but you can sew over the teeth is fine. So that's that one done. Carry on round the circle. Carry on round. So the amount of fabric I've used of this is less than a fat quarter, so perfect if you're just starting out, if you've got lots of scraps you want to get rid of. This is a great little make. So I'm now coming over to the other part of my zip. So I just want to double check I'm not going to be running over the end of my zip there. Make sure I avoid that. I'm just going to go slowly. Yep, perfect. And then I'm just going to meet back up where I started sewing and do a back stitch. There we go. So when you sew a circle, the machine kind of guides it round anyway. So you just literally want to follow that edge of your fabric round, take you round in a circle. So as you can see, that's my circle sewn all the way around now. I've gone over my zipper at that point there, and I've gone over my zipper there. What I'm going to do just to reinforce it is I'm just going to go over those points again, just a double stitch, just to give it a bit of reinforcement where the zipper finishes. Just back stitch over it as well, and that just gives a little bit of extra reinforcement at those points, and on the other side as well. Hopefully this is going to work. So now I'm going to trim this down. What you could also do is do a little zigzag all around the edge just to finish it off and stop it fraying inside if you wanted to. I'm not going to worry about that. Because we've got a lining anyway, but you could if you wanted to finish it off. And now I'm just going to trim all of this, doing something not in your view, just going to trim all of this off now. So I'm trimming that zipper off, trim anything off you need to around your circle so if it's not lining up. And I'm going to cut this bit off now as well. So on the end here, I don't know if you can see, that's the the stoppers to the zip. So I didn't sew over that because it was way away. So I'm just going to, there we go, gone. Okay, so you should end up with a little neat circle like that. Because it's a circle as well, I'm going to turn it in the right way. I'm just going to do some little snips in there actually. So backtracking on my zigzag idea, maybe don't do that if you're going to do this because you're going to cut 3 stitches. I'm going to do some little snips in here so it lays nice and flat when I turn it in the right way. So all I'm doing is just cutting some little snips in there. I really think I need to go and get some lunch after this live video. Give me some more energy before I start these unicorns. Otherwise they might not look like unicorns. So snipping all the way around. Don't snip through your stitches, most importantly. Spoil your handiwork right at the end. There we go. This just helps it lay flat. So you can cut little notches if you want to. I don't really bother. I just normally go with little snips. And then I'm going to turn it in the right way. Da, 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 exciting! Moment of truth. Fab. There we are. There's my little pull. My little keyring tab. So there you have it. How cute is that? So what you could also do, which might make it look quite cute actually, is you could sew around again now, a top stitch all the way around, which I might do, and that will just make it, give it a little bit of definition almost around the edges, not quite so puffy. So I'm going to do that actually. So that's looking really cute. I'm really pleased with that. It's got gorgeous lining inside, so it's all nice and protected. It's not going to get me earphones all tangled up in threads and things. I've got my little tag at the top for my keyring. So what I'm going to do is now do a top stitch all the way around that circle. So going through a lot of fabric on this, so take your time. Your machine might have a little hissy fit, and you don't want to sew too close to the edge because you've got all of that you know, seam in there. That's sort of, that's the bulky bit as such. So you kind of want to feel that and sew within the other side of that almost. If that makes any sense at all. So start somewhere, not near the zip. And I'm just going to do a straight stitch. And again, I'm following somewhere on my foot I'm following around the edge of my circle to try and keep it round. So when you get to your zip, you're going to sew straight over the teeth again, so just take your time. So, ooh, any sort of projects like this where you're sewing through alternative fabrics or materials, should we say, so like the teeth on your zipper, or we were using vinyl last night in our workshop. It's an opportunity really to change your needle as well. So when you're sewing with those types of fabric and then you go ahead and maybe sew something with linen or something, say, you might find that your needle needs changing, you might blunt it slightly. So a good opportunity to get yourself a fresh needle and treat your machine to a nice new needle in there. So I'm going across the open bit here now. I don't know if you can see that. So I just want to make sure I try and pinch that together as best I can when I sew over that part. And then you want to try and meet up where you started. Perfect. So like with anything I do as well, don't be too harsh on yourself. When you look at your finished work, you know, we have the temptation to think it's not good enough, or I wish I'd done that straighter. You know, just be proud of what you do, use it, because it's only you that notices those little bits. It honestly is. So just give yourself a break sometimes. I know how critical we are of ourselves when we're doing sewing and things. So I'm really pleased with that. There you are. I've done a little stitch all the way around the outside just to kind of finish it off. Give it a bit of definition there. There's the back. And now I'm just going to apply my little keyring to the top. Hello, Anna! And that makes it into the keyring. And hopefully that is going to encourage him to keep his headphones nice and safe. I'm just looking to see if my headphones are up here, but I don't think they are. To give you an example. There you are, there's my keyring on the top. He can attach that in his bag. He can then open that up, put his headphones in there and zip it back up out the way, and hopefully that will keep them nice and safe for him. Or maybe you want to keep your pennies in there and keep that attached in your handbag, you know, your trolley coins or something. It would also make a perfect little coin pouch. So that's just sprung into my mind. That would also be, yeah, perfect for keeping your loose change in. Hang it in your handbag, then you've always got a few pennies for the car park or the trolley. Just remember to replenish if you spend them. So hope you enjoyed that anyway. Hope it gave you a giggle with my batting scenarios on the wrong way. Don't forget to do it the right way when you do it, obviously. And don't be a harsh critic on yourself. Make some fabulous little projects. Be proud of them. And don't forget to share them all on the group. Anyway, we'll see you all soon. I'm going to go get some lunch now because I'm feeling hungry. I need a sugar boost. And I need to let all you lovely guys get back to your day. It's now 1 o'clock. So have a fab day. And I will see you all again soon. Bye.